Okay guys, so we are starting chapter 4, all about classifying triangles. I think you guys will like this chapter. It's interesting, and we combine facts, there's not that many, with a lot of algebra. So for this, I thought I'd give you a condensed version of the notes. I did put the notes up on in your folder here so you can see my filled out notes that I would normally do. This is just the shortcut version to save information. So first of all, we're going to go over classifying triangles by their angles. You can classify a triangle two ways, by their sides and by their angles. We're going to start with the angles. So there are 4 different types of triangles when we're classifying by angles. There's acute, equiangular, obtuse, and right. So an acute triangle is a triangle where all 3 angles are less than 90 degrees. They're all small. They're all acute. Okay, a equiangular triangle is when all 3 angles are the same size, right? And a triangle, we know a triangle angles add up to 180 degrees, right? For any triangle, the 3 angles, here we have a right triangle, the 3 angles always add up to 180. So if we have 180 degrees and all of the angles are equal, and we have 3 angles in a triangle, 180 divided by 3 is 60. So an equiangular triangle is a triangle that has 3 60-degree angles. Okay, and that is an acute triangle as well, but it's specific because they're all the same size. If one of the angles is obtuse, not all 3 can't be obtuse, because if all 3 angles were bigger than 90, they're not going to all add up to 180, right? They have to add up to exactly 180. So if one of the angles is obtuse, we call it a obtuse triangle, an obtuse triangle. And then if one of the angles is exactly 90 degrees, we call it a right triangle. So acute is when they're all less than 90. Equiangular is when they're all 60 degrees. Obtuse is when one of the angles is larger than 90. And right is when one of the angles is exactly 90. So here we have some examples, and then your exercises are down here below that you have to do. So this is pretty simple. For A, we have 60 degrees here, and then all 3 angles are marked the same. So if they're all marked with this little congruency thing, that means this is 60 and this is 60. And we talked about up here at the top, triangles that have 3 60-degree angles, when all the angles are the same, are equiangular. Equiangular. And you'll find out that they're also equilateral. They also have the same length sides. But right now we're not talking about the length of the sides of the triangle. We're only talking about the angle measure. So when all 3 angles are the same, we call it equiangular, equal angles. B, all 3 angles are congruent. Oh, sorry, this is what it is explaining the answer here. They all have a measure of 60, so the triangle is equiangular. B, we have 120, 35, and 25. So we don't have any 90-degree angles. They're not all less than 90. They're not all 60. So what's left? We have one angle that's bigger than 90. 120 is greater than 90. And up here, any triangle that has one angle greater than 90 is an obtuse triangle. So this is obtuse. Just one of them, not all of them. Just one of them has to be bigger than 90. And then for C, we have a 90, 60, and 30. This is a 90-degree angle. It's exactly 90, so this is a right triangle, because we have an exact 90-degree angle. Okay, so hopefully that'll help you guys identify. All you're doing is telling me if they're equiangular, acute, obtuse, or right down here. Also, you have a word problem assignment this week, and so I wanted to kind of look at the first 2 questions. They have to do with angle measure, what we just talked about. So number 1 and number 2 address what we just talked about. Number 1, Paul is standing in front of a museum exhibition. When he turns his head 60 degrees one way, he can see a statue. And when he turns his head 60 degrees the other way, he can see another statue. The 2 statues and Paul form the corners of a triangle. Classify the triangle. What? Right? What? Well, here's Paul, right? And if he was looking straight ahead, this would be his view, right? But he's going to look 60 degrees to his left. So he's going to look at this direction. This is 60 degrees. And he's going to see a statue over here. We'll put a little smiley face. That's one statue. And then when he looks 60 degrees to the right, 60 degrees this way, he sees another statue over here. So it says Paul and the two statues form the vertices of a triangle, right? Here's your triangle. So how can we figure out what type of triangle it is, classifying it by the angles? Well, think about it. If Paul's here and he looked 60 degrees this way and 60 degrees this way, what's this whole angle? That should help you. Number 2, Marcia cuts a rectangular piece of paper in half along a diagonal. The result is 2 triangles. Classify each of these triangles as acute, right, or obtuse. So think about if we're just looking at one of the triangles, because they're both going to be exactly the same. What are the angle measures, right? What do we know about a rectangle that we can use for this triangle? Okay, so think about that to classify by angles. Let me know if you have questions.